Hello everyone, it's Kathy Champion and you're back with me on my YouTube channel, Kathy's Random Acts of Stamping. I am a independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm located here in Gastonia, North Carolina, but I can take care of any of your stamping needs wherever you live across the United States. So if you're not currently working with a demonstrator and you're interested in any of the products that you see me use here on my channel, please reach out to me. You can always find all the information in the video description right below the video. There'll be a drop-down menu where it says show more, my contact information, the link to my store, also our Facebook group. All the links are listed there, along with a list of whatever products are being used in that particular video. Today is another installment of I Didn't Know I Needed to Know That. And I thought I had been thinking about this for a while and thinking, do we get the benefit out of our embossing folders, the full benefit of what we can get? And I don't think a lot of people do. I think that we think of embossing folder, you know, you can put a piece of cardstock in like this. The Stampin' Up! Folders has this great little registration mark across the front, and you can line your paper up right against that and get it nice and straight on the bottom. Fold your folder. We are going to be using our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine today. This is a 3D folder, and it will tell you on your wrapper when you get these. It will tell you. If it doesn't say, then it's a standard embossing folder. If it does state, you know, I'm thinking let's move that out, and I want to get something. I think this will work. I wanted something where you can see the contrast. I'm going to bring over my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and for this particular sandwich, because it is a 3D folder, we're only going to need 2 plates, the number 1 plate and a number 4 plate, which is our specialty plate. And this all comes with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, so you get all of this with your machine, so you're ready out of the box to handle any die cuts and embossing folders of any size. So all we're going to do is put our number 1 plate, which is your base plate, and then you're going to put your embossing folder in with the paper, and you always want to try to feed in on your closed side. Sometimes you can't, but if you can, you always want to go in that direction. And then we're just going to crank this through. And this machine is the easiest machine to crank. It is like a dream. I'm going to turn it around because I'm getting ready to hit some ink pads. And then I'm going to take this out. I'm going to move this over, and I'll continue to move this back and forth as needed. But this is the normal way that we think about embossing. And of course we have beautiful detail, but we can step this up, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that we can use our embossing folders to take everything to another level. And I'm going to use this piece of, this is just a friend of mine made this for me, and it has my old name on here when it was Random Acts of Crafting, but now I'm Random Acts of Stampin' since I became a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So I'm just going to lay this down on top of this, and I'm going to grab, let's do a pink. I love this polished pink. This is one of our new in colors. Is a gorgeous shade of pink. Now I also have my blending brushes, and these are my blending brushes that I have accumulated, and I have one for each one of my color groups. So for my pinks, and what I did is I marked each one of them. I just used a little labeler, and I put pink on this one, and these are my pink ones. So I'm going to go in and just tap and load up a little ink on there, and then I'm going to tap over here because I don't want to go in with full color. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just want to show you what a difference a little ink on your brush can do. It will make everything just pop. And I'm just using very light pressure, very lightly, and I'm coming back over and grabbing a little bit more of that ink. And that's the good thing about putting your ink down on a non-porous surface like this acetate. It allows you to use your ink rather than the paper soaking it up. So that's another one of the reasons I like to do that. I always say get all the bang you can for your buck. So I'm doing that again over here, a little bit more ink. So you can make this as pink as you want it or as soft as you want it. And what a beautiful background that would make. Isn't that pretty? And you know, you can keep adding the ink as much as you want. You can come in and go really super dark. Let's rub it across there and pick up a little more ink. And you can come in a little heavy-handed. Just remember, you can always add, but you can't take it away. So I always say the best rule of thumb with that is to start out light and build your color. But that is just gorgeous. It's a stunning piece to make a background out of, and it just gives you another level to your embossing folders. Now also, let's put this ink pad up, and I am going to take a piece of paper, and I'm just going to grab a piece of copy paper, and I'm going to use this to clean my brushes. I do not wash my brushes. I've heard some demonstrators say that they take theirs to water, but as you can see, you can clean them off just by rubbing them, and there's hardly any ink left on there because I used it on my card. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one back. I like to make sure that I keep them in the order. I'm going to grab just a wet wipe, and these are the ones that I wet with alcohol, and y'all seen me do this before. And it's just basically a pack of wipes that I picked up at Walmart, and I just open them up and I pour in about 1/4 to 1/3 of a bottle of rubbing alcohol, and they make the best things to clean in your craft room. Everything from your tools to your surface like this. I even clean off this surface because this is a vinyl textured surface and it works beautifully. And I do like to fan it a little bit just to make sure I dry everything out. The other thing that I want to show you, this particular folder right here is this one is called, oh goodness, oh, what was this one called? So this is so pretty for an anniversary card, any type of Valentine's. I mean, of course, hearts for Valentine's. But this works so beautifully, and I've got several pieces of cardstock pre-cut so that when I got ready to do this, I could kind of whip through it. But I do need to cut this one down. So I'm going to cut off about 1 inch of this one. So I'm going to get my trimmer. I'll tell you, better yet, let's just cut this one almost in half. I'm going to take that to 3 inches. Let's see how, it's 3.5. Let's do 3.5. We'll just go by the rule. 3.5, and now this piece will fit perfectly in this folder. And what is so nice about this, I want to show you different aspects that you can get from this one embossing folder. And when I show you that, you are going to be so surprised because you're going to be like me. I did not know that you could get this many effects from one embossing folder. Now this one is the single. It's not a 3D, it's just a regular embossing folder. So for this one, we're going to need our our #1 plate, a cut plate. Let me find my cut plates. A cut plate, your embossing folder with your paper, and then another cut plate. So we are going to take this and run it through. Just like so. Again, I got that closed in going in first. And again, see how easy this rolls through? Love it. Now these smaller embossing folders will fit in our mini die cut machine, which is great, but you will not be able to use the larger ones or even the ones that are this size. So only the mini ones will fit into your small and die cut machine, the mini. Okay, let's move this back over here. And now I want to show you, look how gorgeous that piece is. Is that not pretty? So I thought maybe this would be pretty in red. So I've got some red ink, but I do want to caution you about one thing with red. With red ink, you're going to have a lot of pigmentation. So I'm going to grab my red blending brush. And again, I'm going to load it up, And I'm going to tap off. Let's see how pigmented that red ink is. And then I'm going to start over here and start blending. And again, this is that same technique I showed you earlier. But every piece that you do is going to look a little bit different. Isn't that pretty? And of course, if you wanted to go lighter, let's do this side a little lighter. You can go with a paler by just going lighter. Or you can go back in and get a full concentration and go darker. Now, depending on your embossing folder, you're going to have different techniques with whatever technique that you use. You're going to have a different result. And I'm going to show you that with the next thing we're going to do. This one, I'm going to leave out my red ink because this time I want to put my ink on my embossing folder, and I'm going to put it on the side that is the top that has the Stampin' Up! Emblem on it. So when you open it up, make sure that your Stampin' Up! Emblem, I'll tell you what, before we do that, let me clean a little bit of this off. I just don't want to take the chance of getting that ink all over everything. End up transferring it onto my cardstock would not be a good thing. So I'm going to load up a good amount of ink on this, and I'm going to just go in and really coat the inside. Now you're wondering, oh my goodness, how are you going to get that ink off? This ink will come off with alcohol and even just a spray bottle of water. This is a water-based ink. Since it's a dye ink, or a pigment ink, I'm sorry. The Stampin' Up! Colors are pigment inks. It's water-based, so you know how well your stamps clean up with water-based? Well, this will work the same way. So I'm just going to get a good amount of color down on here. And the good thing about the brushes, you can blend that color out so you're not having any harsh marks anywhere on here. And if you want to, you can wet your piece of paper. I don't usually wet my paper that is the regular cardstock or even the thick. And if you wanted to do the Floyd 100 watercolor paper, by all means. So I'm just going to very gently lay that in, close that up. I'm not going to bring the emboss machine over this time because I need to do this fairly quickly. So I'm just going to grab my plates, and I'm going to do it right over here. Really quick. And there we go. And let's see what kind of effect we got from this. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? See how it left the hearts white, but it did everything else in between with the color? I love that. But if you had turned it over, you would have gotten the opposite. Your color would have went down into the hearts, and you would have gotten the, well, I'll tell you what, let me show you. I'm going to take this little strip right here. Let's clean this one off really good first. So again, this is my alcohol white that I'm just going over it with. And I would suggest to get a cloth or some paper towels or something, so as you're doing this you can kind of clean up behind yourself so you don't make a great big mess. But you know, hey, we're crafting, so if you're not making a mess, you're just not having fun. You know, it's sort of like a kid with that first birthday cake. If they're not getting it all over them, then they're not really enjoying it. So I kind of make a mess when I'm crafting, but I'm always having fun. So that's the most important thing to remember. Don't stress over crafting. It's supposed to be a stress reliever. So just, you know, get in there and have fun. So I'm just cleaning that up really good, making sure I don't have any ink on the outside. I'm still showing a little residue of red, but let me show you. I'm going to spray a little bit of water and then re-wipe it. I got ink on the outside too because everything was so wet. But now we're not having any residue, and I'm going to get a cloth. It's just a soft, one of my little microfiber cloths that I use. These things look so dirty, but they really are clean. I do put them in the washing machine on a regular basis, but they get stained because of the ink. But this will clean up your folder. Absolutely gorgeous. See what I mean? So now we're going to put the ink on the right side of it, and we're going to try that. I'm going to go ahead and get a full piece of paper, because I want to see. I had not tried this on this side. I had done this one, but I had not tried it the other way. So let's try it that way. And we're going to go back in again with this red, real red ink. I love the real red. I think it's so pretty. But this is going to give us the opposite effect, which I think is so neat, because I don't think that a lot of us as stampers, we realize how much bang for our buck we can get from embossing folders by just trying new techniques. And I always say, what have you got to lose? So when you're not really feeling creative and you're not sure what you want to do, go in, sit down, and just try some inking, some blending. Pull out your embossing folders and try this and see what you come up with, because you will be surprised at what beauties you can get out of just trying a new technique. So I'm going to open this up and then look at that. It is the opposite of this one. It pushed it in rather than up. Isn't that cute? I love that. So you could use this in either orientation. Okay, so now let's go ahead and clean this. Wipe that off really good. That's the great thing about these little cleaning cloths. You can really clean up quite a bit of mess and just a little bit. Now, not only are we using our blending brushes, I'm going to bring in some ink daubers. Now see, this one had a lot more residue on it because it's more highly pigmented. So I'm just going to really scrub this one off. And I just like to go back and forth in little circles until I feel like I've got all of that ink off as much as possible. And once I feel like it's, you know, pretty well clean, doesn't have to be perfect, then I can just drop that back in its little slot. And if you're wondering where I got this, the little holder, this is actually a Stampin' storage blending brush holder. They sell so many wonderful products that coordinate with all of our Stampin' Up products. So everything from ink holders to our punch holders, and everything's made in the U.S. That's one reason I like to support the company. It is U.S. made product, which I say if we can keep our business in the U.S., then it is a win-win for all of us. So here we go. We're going to spray this down pretty well, and then I'm going to wipe that down again. You want to clean these as soon as you use them, because you don't want that ink to dry on there, because it'll just be harder to get off. Now you can take this to the sink and wash it with some mild soap and water, and it will clean up beautifully as well. Okay, we got that done. So the next one that I want to show you is one of my Greenery. This is the Greenery. This one's been around for a while. Again, it's not a 3D embossing folder. It is just a regular folder, but I love the Greenery that's here. And I'm going to show you how to do two tones. You know, I'm still seeing red on my mat, so let me wipe that off just a little bit more. I don't want to cross-contaminate inks, so I always try to make sure that I clean this off as best as possible. Just like that. So now I'm going to band that just like so. Get it nice and dry. So now this one, I want to go in again with just a piece of cardstock. I'm not going to bother with cutting these down. I cut these for this, and I'm just going to put them in like so. And again, we're going to run this through. this is a regular embossing folder. So again, we have our number 1 plate, we have a number 3 plate, our embossing folder, and another number 3 plate. And I'm just going to emboss this just plain. Just like that. I was telling one of my customers the other day that this Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is the best I have ever used. And I have used everything from Cuttlebug to Big Shot to Gemini to Revolution. I've used them all. But if I was not selling Stampin' Up, I would still use this die cut machine because it is just that good. I love it. Alright, this time I'm going to bring in another tool called ink daubers. Now I keep mine in this little plastic container. This is not a Stampin' Up product. This I actually got from stampbook.com. They always have some beautiful storage things to keep your stuff in like this. So we're going to go in with a Bermuda Bay. I think the Bermuda Bay is such a beautiful shade of green. It looks so tropical. And we are going to do our greenery. Not our little sprigs. I'm going to save those for a different color. But I'm just going to load up a little ink on here. I'm going to dab off over here. And then I'm very gently just going to kiss the top of this. And see how that's putting down that beautiful color just on top of our raised up embossed area. I'm going to pick up a little bit more and I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this one. And again, like I said, by using this acetate sheet, I can use the same ink that I dabbed off, which to me is just a win-win. Alright, then we're going to come over here and do this last side. You know, if you're always looking for a way to do backgrounds, and we're always looking for a beautiful background for our cards, I know I am. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to dab and then just go in little circular motions, put that ink down, and then the same thing here on the big one. And see, I'm just going to go in now and pick up more of that ink. You can get a little more aggressive when you don't have as much ink on there, but when you just got a little bit, or you've got it full of ink, you want to be very gentle like this. See, I'm just barely touching it because I know that I just inked that up and I don't want to have issues with that. So there we go. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. But we're not done. We are going to go back and let's pull in, how about that polished pink again? Yeah, let's do the polished pink. That pink and that green look so tropical together. So again, I'm going to close this one up so I don't accidentally dab in the wrong one. Can you tell I've done that before? It's so easy to do if you've got 2 ink pads open. So my rule of thumb is if I'm working with one ink pad, I close the other one. And when I get done with this one, if I need to go back to the green, I would just reopen it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some ink. And then on these little spriggies, I'm just going to come in. And the Flirty Flamingo would have been a pretty color to use on this as well. Pinks and oranges would be pretty together. Pick up a little bit more of that ink. And then do this one right here. Just like that. Is that not gorgeous? Now what a beautiful background. I mean, this would make a beautiful background. We could cut that off and then this piece would be ready to go on a card base. And you could put a sentiment, you could cut a die cut and put that with it. This particular one does coordinate with Oh goodness, I can't think of the name of the stamp set. It is an old one that we've had out, Forever Fern, I believe. Yeah, Forever Fern. And it is a gorgeous greenery stamp set. But I love that. I think it's so pretty. So I'm going to cut that off. And maybe I'll hang on to some of these backgrounds, or I'll come back maybe one day next week and we'll do some cards with these. That would be fun. So y'all let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see done, to be able to use some of these in backgrounds. I think that would be awesome. And it also gives everybody an idea of how you can work with these different pieces. Now I have one more that I've got to show you, because I thought this was probably my all-time favorite. In fact, I tell you what, I'm just going to show it to you because I think you've gotten the idea of what you can do. This one is called Timber, and it's a 3D embossing folder. It's very, very textured, almost like tree bark, and as the name, it's called Timber. We also have one called Bark that's a little bit different. Let me pull my embossing folders. I pulled out all my embossing folders when I was getting ready to do this. Yeah, here's Bark, and it's more like a tree bark. This is more like the knotty pine, like Timber. So many different embossing folders. I mean, these are our current embossing folders. There are quite a few. So you have a lot to choose from, and you can find something, just about something for everybody. Now what I did with this one, and I'm going to show you the effect I got. I took on this side, and I used a soft suede, and then I took a piece of paper, or cardstock, I'm sorry. Let me find my piece. And what I did is I laid my cardstock down after I inked it and closed it and ran it through, and wait until you see this effect. It looks like velvet. I mean, it feels absolutely stunning, and what a beautiful background for a stamp this would make. And you could go back in with your brush and accentuate maybe the knots a little bit, or you could just leave it as is and use this on a card. So pretty, so soft. I'm hoping the camera's picking up that beautiful texture. I mean, it looks like crushed velvet. It's just beautiful. So those were the ones that I worked on, but I'm going to challenge you to take your hand at it. These were some that I played with prior. This was one that I did all the way with the little flowers. That was purple. And I think this one I did the same thing. I inked the folder itself and then ran it through, whereas this one I ran it through and then used my blending brush on top. I'll finish this one off camera, but we'll come back and we'll use all of these on some card bases and show you just how versatile these can be. But in the meantime, I do challenge you to pull out your embossing folders, pull out your ink, pull out your markers. Do be careful not to use your alcohol markers on your embossing folders, but you can use your Stampin' Right markers. These are water-based markers, and they will work on your pieces. If you want to go in and color like just a few flowers and then run it through, you could do that, or you could run it through and then color your flowers after they come out. So many different ways that you can use these. So again, like I said, I challenge you to grab your embossing folders and just play with them and see what you can come up with, and hopefully you will find some beautiful combinations in your own craft room with some things that you already had on hand that you can work with. Now, if you are interested in purchasing any of the folders that I showed today or any of the ones in the Stampin' Up catalog, please reach out to me. I'll be more than glad to help you with your order. Only if you're not working with a demonstrator. If you already have a girl or a gentleman that is a demonstrator that you've been working with and you're perfectly happy, then by all means do continue to work with that person. I do offer some incentives for shopping with me. If you spend $50 or more and use my host code, which will pop in about here, if you need to see it prior to this, it will be listed in the description below, along with my links and my store link and everything. So you can go there and get it. A reminder that Thursday is the last day you have to sign up with Stampin' Up! And get that extra bundle for free. $125 worth of product plus a free bundle of your choice out of the list that's in the Celebration catalog. In the back, there's a list, and you can choose. I think one of them is like $60, a $60 bundle, die and stamps. It's a lot of the ones, they're out of our new fall and winter catalog, which I like to refer to as our holiday catalog, because it's so full of Christmas and just so many beautiful things for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween. And I mean, everything is just gorgeous in that catalog. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so blessed to call y'all a part of my crafty family. I thank you so much for tuning in and enjoying what I do. It is my absolute joy to teach you how to be somewhat of a better crafter and challenge you to try something new and different. So as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is worthy. So until we craft again, may God richly bless you and keep you safe. And I hope to see y'all again tomorrow on our live at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'll be looking forward to seeing you all then. Bye-bye.